Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. My name is Devin Ellis. I'm Director of Client Solutions and Development at CyberMetrics Corporation. Joining me today in the presentation is Michael Zalat. Michael is Business Development Manager for Brother Mobile Solutions. I'd like to, before we begin, just give you a quick little bit of information about my company. CyberMetrics has been developing quality and facility maintenance software for more than 20 years. We're probably best known for our gauge track calibration management software. We have over 12,000 customers worldwide. Some of the topics we want to go over today are some new developments in calibration management software. We're going to go ahead and talk about some the portable calibration solutions, how a lot of the traditional calibration is now moving outside of the laboratory. We want to take a look at some data capture systems, as well as some label printing. Then I'm going to turn the presentation over to Michael, who's going to communicate to you some of the ways that their solution is combined, their technology solutions are combined with software applications like ours, and how they overcome some of the challenges for their customers in labeling. Calibration management software can help your organization meet its operational goals, as well as any of you who are looking for ISO accreditation or certification. A established calibration management package can significantly help you meet that certification or that goal. The major thing about calibration software, however, besides that, is it should also make your job easier. It should help you streamline your operations. An effective calibration management solution is going to help you do this. The time's passed when we can ask ourselves whether we're doing what our manual says we should be doing. Anymore, we have to ask ourselves, not only are we meeting our objectives, are we doing it as well as we can be doing it? With that in mind, I want to go ahead and talk about a few of these innovations, how we're helping our customers streamline their calibration. One of the more recent innovations for us is the portable calibration solutions. Either web-based or portable software solutions are taking calibration out of the traditional lab setting. This gives us many advantages. For some of our customers, they really don't have any choice. You have larger fixed assets out on the floor. It's impossible to bring those in. Some of the challenges you face is going out onto the floor, labeling these, calibrating these, then having to go back to the lab where your computer system is and document all of your information. This creates a duplication of effort. A portable system lets us go out and do this documentation out on the floor, as well as label those systems while we're out there. More companies are also, not just for their fixed assets, they're beginning to do a lot of their calibration on the floor for their handheld devices. This gives us a lot of advantages. Number one, it lets us calibrate the devices in the environments that they're in. We don't have to necessarily duplicate the temperature or any of the other variables, so it can give us a lot more accuracy in our calibrations. A huge advantage for this is it eliminates the challenge in gauge recall. It also helps us eliminate a lot of the duplicate gauging that we need to keep on hand. For in-calibration devices, we have to remove from the floor to calibrate them in our lab's facility. Another big advantage that I mentioned earlier is the ability to calibrate these devices and document while we're on the floor, whether we're connected to a live database or whether we're working over the web or working on a remote database that'll sync up with our application when we return. Some other more recent innovations in the calibration management software are the digital capture devices. A lot of gauge manufacturers for several years, but even more so now, as one gentleman from Fisher mentioned earlier, these devices are getting a lot more affordable. So calibration devices that actually have digital output and can communicate with software applications are becoming more and more prevalent. Some of the huge advantages we get from working with these devices is that we capture data directly to either a spreadsheet or to a calibration system such as ours. And in our case, we've integrated with many of the smart cable devices from different manufacturers. Just kind of want to hold one up. If a gauge manufacturer creates a digital output device, there are also third-party manufacturers that create communication devices that work directly with the software applications. So I can take a reading, send it directly to the system. This is going to eliminate a lot of the uncertainty with taking a reading from a gauge and then entering that data in, but it's also going to reduce a lot of the cumulative data input that builds up as I try to take this from one system or copy and paste. So beyond the accuracy that that's going to give us, it's also going to save us the time and labor on the data entry with that direct communication. Finally, I want to go ahead and just talk about the label printing. The label printings that are integrated, the label printers that are utilized with the calibration management systems let you take data out of the system directly from the calibration management system, which gives you a lot more accurate information to communicate to those people using the devices out on the floor. The second point I want to make is one I made earlier regarding accreditation or certification with larger bodies like ISO. The gauge labeling is critical to compliance with a lot of those or many of those standards. Printing directly from calibration software ensures accurate information. It's going to ensure consistent information with the data that's in our database. That information is presented out on the floor. Another large benefit of label system is the barcoding. The barcoding lets us scan a device. It saves us, again, pulling up a filter, typing in a gauge ID, or mistyping. If I can scan a gauge with the barcode label, it makes my crib operations a lot smoother, a lot more rapid. And finally, by working closely with printer manufacturers such as Brother, we ensure that legible, durable labels can be printed from our systems and produced out of the software. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over and let Michael discuss a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Devin. To give the quick background on who Brother is, we're actually Brother Mobile Solutions, which is a subsidiary of Brother International Corporation, or as we refer to as Big Brother most of the time. You know, known for multi-function machines and sewing machines and gear motors. But Brother Mobile Solutions is actually, separated really into two groups. We have a line of mobile printers, and then we have a line of portable and desktop barcode printers, really solution-oriented products that we really look to work with companies such as CyberMetrics and really come out with full solutions for customers. One of the most important things is really, combining the solution, and there's really three characteristics we look at. It's identifying the assets, capturing it, and then sharing it back. When we talk about identifying it, first it's like, why label? It's important to understand what the needs are and what's going to be on the label itself. So certain things that usually come up on a calibration label include due dates, calibration dates, certificate numbers, things like that. So when you get this information, you also want to capture it. And as Devin was mentioning, barcode technology is coming along more and more, and we're using that technology to easily identify what's on the asset itself. So by scanning the barcode, you can easily capture, pull the information out. And then the most important thing is sharing that information back to the back office. And that's where, working with CyberMetrics, it's really important to, as manufacturers, to be one step ahead and work together to combine and make a full solution that's seamless for the end user. So it's important for us to work with CyberMetrics to make sure all the drivers are set up properly, to make sure that the print functionality is integrated into the proper parts of the software, so you can be able to take that information, take it from the database, and print directly for what you want on the label itself. Some of the key challenges that we're seeing in the labeling market itself is, first, a lot of companies are still using handwritten labels. You'd think it would be very easy just to write down and write a handwritten label, but if anyone writes like me, you're not going to be able to read the label itself. So it is very important that you don't have errors and wasted time in the field because someone's trying to figure out what someone wrote, what the due date is, and making sure that it's 699 and trying to figure out that information. So, there's a lot of problems with handwritten labels, and one of the key things is you don't want to be, you have the risk of not being ISO compliant, and you don't want to get fined. Pre-printed labels, that's what a lot of people do is they buy a whole stack of pre-printed labels, but, some of the challenges we see is, one, storing it. You might buy 1,000 labels at a time, you have to store it in a closet. And then there's also a lot of waste that happens with pre-printed labels. What if something changes out in the field, you need new information? All of a sudden you bought 1,000 labels and you might have to toss 200 of them because something changed on the thing. So it's a problem. Another challenge that we see is durability of labels. A lot of people are using paper labels, and what happens a lot of times if it's a direct thermal technology, it can be smeared, it can be torn. So and a lot of the labels don't necessarily have the right adhesives to match with the right product. So you have a lot of problems with labels falling off or breaking and stuff like that. And then access to real-time information. This is one of the key things that I think that CyberMetrics and Brother does really well together, is really combining it to print directly from the database. And as Devin was mentioned, really that duplication of effort is really important to avoid. So what are the key attributes that a label should have? One of them is lamination. In a lot of these manufacturing areas, you have to have the label protected from all types of environments, whether that's chemicals, fading, UV lights, things like that. So you really need a really tough, durable label. So the lamination really provides that durability that it needs. And then, as I mentioned kind of before, is really taking the right adhesive and matching it up to the right environment. We have standard adhesive, extra strength adhesives. We have a flexible ID adhesive for cable and wires, so it matches to curved surfaces so it won't fall off. We even have tamper-proof labels that you can peel off, and if someone messes with it, it'll leave a checkerboard behind. But again, the extra strength adhesive, in a lot of situations, you want to make sure that if it's on a metal, if it's on a plastic, that the right adhesive matches the right product. And then, of course, a label has to be easy to use. No one wants to try to peel the corners like in the day or things like that. And, if you're using let's say, a direct thermal technology and you have to try to match the ribbon up with the right label, it can be a real pain. And also dropping in cassettes, which Brother does, instead of trying to figure out how to put the labels in. So we try to make it as easy as possible for everybody. And then from a barcode printer itself, first, as we mentioned before, it's the integration, which I mentioned a couple times already. But you want the printer to have, you want it to be feature-rich, and you want it to match what the application is that you're trying to do. So Brother has a lot of different features that people can utilize in that machine right there, which is the PT9700, whether that's high speed, high resolution. It has a built-in auto cutter, so you don't have to, so it cuts it automatically. It has the ability to store templates inside. So if you want to, you can actually hook up a barcode scanner to the printer and not even use a laptop. You can just store a template, scan the barcode, and it'll actually automatically print out a label itself. It has the ability to do half cuts. So let's say you want to print 100 labels at a time. It can score each label, so you're not having to carry 100 loose labels in. You can just peel them off one at a time. Another thing is a lot of these label printers out in the marketplace are very big. So, and a lot of times there's not a lot of room for these printers in different environments. So a small footprint, and of course everyone wants a great value for their money as well. And that's it. That's all I have. Any questions for either one of us? Thank you.
Thank you very much.